Hi, everyone. It is December 8, 2019. The Schumann resonance, 7.83. Thousands of years, the Earth has been emitting a natural frequency of 7.83, which we ourselves resonate to. We align ourselves with that frequency. And when that frequency is not greatly disturbed by man artificially inducing their own powerful frequencies, throwing off the Earth's natural frequency, we are feeling good. You know, we're in harmony with that natural frequency. It keeps us balanced. It keeps us healthy. It keeps our minds working properly. When man artificially induces these frequencies, everything is off kilter. Well, man has been artificially inducing incredibly powerful frequencies that are causing an awful lot of chaos, disruption, not just in individuals, the two-legged, but for all life. All life resonates with that the Earth brainwaves, which I may read some of two articles that I have open, and if I don't get to it, then I'll link them below. Earth brainwaves are identical to the spectrum of our brainwaves and the brainwaves of all species. Living beings were made to resonate to this natural frequency pulsation in order to evolve harmoniously. The ionosphere is being manipulated by the U.S. government, scientists using an Alaskan transmitter called HAARP. There's a lot of people who believe HAARP is obsolete. They no longer are using HAARP. This facility in Alaska is still being used. Though, since the creation of HAARP, the building of HAARP, and the use of HAARP, now we have mini HAARP-like stations all over the world. And it's not just our military, but it's also militaries, Brazil, Russia, China, France, Norway. There's many, many of these HAARP-like facilities. And they are being used to emit powerful frequencies that are interfering with, and at this point, I believe, have usurped the natural processes of the Earth. But we also have Doppler radar stations, and they're not just on land. They have these transportable Doppler radar on ships that they move around. And they're not just using this for weather modification. These frequencies have been weaponized. They use it for warfare. They're using it for mind control. They're using it for weather modification. They're using it as surveillance, communication. There's a whole lot of applications of just HAARP. But I do want you to think, okay, we don't really think about these facilities emitting these very dangerous frequencies. We think cell phones, cell towers, Wi-Fi, smart meters. And I think the majority is limited to that just box. That one box. Cell phones, cell towers, smart meters, Wi-Fi. When you think of all of the frequencies artificially induced by man that we are now saturated in, coming from Doppler radar, Gwen towers, HARP-like facilities, and even that doesn't list all of the sources. The satellites emitting dangerous frequencies. We are beyond critical mass. And they have thrown off all of the natural processes of the earth, which means everything now is off kilter. So if the Creator designed living beings to resonate to the natural earth, 7.83 hertz, that frequency, and that frequency is being usurped by the artificially induced frequencies, some of the symptoms are very similar to, or exact to, the symptoms that you experience with Wi-Fi, smart meters, cell phones, cell towers, blurred vision, vertigo, irregular or skipped heartbeat, hot flashes, unexplained pain, which can linger, or that, well, the pain that mysteriously comes and goes and shows up in one arm and then to the other arm, dizziness, nausea, flu-like symptoms. It can make you extremely hungry. It can take away your hunger. You can be put into a fight or flight mode, anxiety, depression, mood swings, extreme fatigue, or bursts of energy, depending on the frequency and depending on the individual. Throwing off these natural frequencies by artificially inducing frequencies, it can lead to chaos. And that's what we're living, guys. We're living chaos, insanity. That just seems to be, increasing to a point where it's really hard to just keep on going. The ionosphere being manipulated by scientists, by governments, by militaries. Well, in this case, HARP, it causes an imbalance between the Schumann and the geomagnetic waves, which disrupt biorhythms. These natural geomagnetic waves are being replaced by artificially created, very low frequencies, ground waves, coming from Gwen towers, Gwen, ground wave emergency network, transmitters, placed 200 miles apart. Well, now they're not 200 miles apart. They were specifically, and from what I read, it was 300, but maybe it's 200 miles apart for what GWEN stands for, Ground Wave Emergency Network, which was decommissioned in the late 70s. So if it was decommissioned as our emergency network structure, why then have they been putting up Gwen towers all over the country, back to back along the interstate? Because they use these Gwen towers for weather modification. They also use them for mind control. Extremely low frequencies are very, very dangerous when when you put the controls in the wrong hands. The extremely low frequencies, They can artificially induce, and they penetrate your brain. They go into your brain, and they can resonate with your frequency in your brain. And once they do resonate, they lock on to your frequency. And then they can subtly change the frequency in your brain. Entrainment. So, I will link below. These two articles that I have here. Angels Don't Play Harp, which is a summary, pretty much, of Dr. Nick Begich's and Gene Manning's book, The Military's Pandora's Box. And unfortunately, all of my highlighting last night, I opened this article this morning, and, well, for some reason it highlighted the entire article. So I had to read it again to pull out the important parts in purple. So, put simply, the apparatus for HARP is a reversal of a radio telescope. Antenna send out signals instead of receiving. HARP is the test run for a super powerful radio wave beaming technology that lifts areas of the ionosphere by focusing a beam and heating those areas. Electromagnetic waves then bounce back onto Earth and penetrate everything, living and dead. Now, this book was written in the 90s. But if you don't understand HARP, you may not understand that these signals are being emitted from militaries around the world, and they are, well, you can see them in this site, on this site, the mimic map, the total precipitable waters, which even now, I'm looking at the site, and when I looked at it in the recent past, you would see this flow. It was just a nice flow without all of this, as you can see, these lines right here, without the crinkling of the precipitable waters. And that is coming from all of the frequencies that are being used. You see there's no nice flow to it anymore. You see right angles a lot, which is a definite signature of man using frequencies to control the natural processes. But all of this, I'm lacking the word to describe this crinkling up, of the blue here, and you see pockets of the yellow, all of this crinkling up. I didn't see before. I'm seeing it now. You see the frequencies? South America. South America has been hit hard with frequencies that, well, these are not frequencies that are coming from cell towers, cell phones, gadgets, smart meters, or Wi-Fi. These are frequencies coming from very, very powerful transmitter sites that are throwing off all of the natural processes of the Earth. And I'll show you some captures that I took of days in December that show you that, wow, something is very wrong here. So just the Gwen stations alone, just the Gwen towers alone, they're so incredibly dangerous. extremely low frequencies extend like 300 miles in a radius, but that they don't have to be in a complete perfect circle, because they can direct the energies to wherever they want these frequencies to go. But the frequencies can be emitted through the ground or into the atmosphere. What then does all of this do to the Earth's natural resonance of 7.83? It changes it. It changes it, leaving all life to suffer the consequences of those changes. And let me just say, I've had 2 experiences now that I cannot explain. It's kind of that mysterious pain that comes and goes. A couple of weeks ago, I woke up and I put my feet on the floor to stand up. The pain in my right ankle was so severe, I could barely walk. It felt like, and I've never had this, but just based on hearing other people talk about their pain when they've torn a tendon or in their ankle, the pain was intense. That happened while I was sleeping. I didn't do anything. It just came about. And it lasted for 2 days. And then it was gone. It literally felt like I had torn a tendon, did something very serious to my ankle. And every step was extremely painful. Lasted 2 days and then it was gone. Gone. How did that come about? I didn't do any, I had not injured that ankle at all during the day before. Nothing. I went to bed, it was fine. I woke up, it wasn't. Okay. I said in my last video, I've been experiencing extreme pain. Neck, upper back, shoulders, right arm. Pain that for me is kind of like off the charts. Literally, I feel like it could bring me to tears. Today it's a little bit better. But this pain has lasted for 2 days. When I get that flu, flu, non-flu, or non-flu flu, from frequencies, induced by frequencies, it lasts for about 2 days. So I'm getting that when I have these induced physical experiences, they last for about 2 days. So I'm wondering if, when you get hit by these frequencies, that the duration of effect will be like 48 hours. I don't know. That seems to be my experience. So, considering that the planet is bathed in these magnetic waves that we kind of harmoniously are aligned to, throwing off these waves throws all of us off. All right, I'm wanting to read what's happening with this Schumann resonance. This is a site that keeps track of these, well, Schumann resonances that are now off the charts. Here, the variations of the resonance, the great variations that nobody can explain, but give us a clear sign that the planet is changing. Nobody can explain it because people are not looking at what militaries around the world are doing. So let me go back to June 1. June, where did that come from? December 1. A single peak isolated at 25. Remember, 7.83 is that natural Earth resonance. 12.1, a single peak at 25. And the UTC time, 1700, you can, if you want, I'll link below to this site where you can translate the UTC, which is like an international standard of time. Okay, so you can use this chart to calculate, Eastern Standard Time, Atlantic, Pacific, Europe, Middle East, Australian time. Okay, so UTC 17 at 25. Something kicked the resonance up. What could that be? It could be the extremely low frequency transmitter sites. It could be HARP-like sites. It could be Russia's ELATE, which is similar to the US's HARP. It could be Doppler radar. Because Doppler radar now, you could think of Doppler radar as mini HARP stations. We've got Doppler radar all over the country. We have mini HARP stations all over the country. If you take a look at what are your, in your community, the power stations with all of the electric structures, they have added on antennas at the top of those structures where the power stations are in your community. They're kind of like mini HARP stations. So we have now all over the country very dangerous structures that are emitting powerful frequencies all over. It's not just the cell phones or the cell towers. There are numerous sources where man is emitting these frequencies, and every individual is different. So, the enormity of symptomatic people in our respective nations is quite profound. We're living in unprecedented time. I wish we had, new words to describe this time, because I feel like every word that comes to mind, it's like, it just doesn't quite match what we're living. It's an understatement to say horrific, tragic. So, June 2, 9:30 UTC time, calm. The last significant peak at power 20 was November 30 at 19. So it took about 36 hours before the amplitude values returned above 10. Today, however, it's back. The peak was at 37. What I am reading, so much of this, I don't understand. And I will link below to also this site, which is a Russian site translated, that keeps real-time data on what's happening with the electromagnetic waves in the Earth. Ionospheric data, Schumann resonances, frequencies, amplitudes. I don't know how to read these maps, but I believe much of the information on this site comes from this site, And we are seeing these resonances they are so friggin' off the charts. It could account for some new symptoms that you're experiencing. So, all right, June 2nd, 17 UTC activity was not long lasting but very intense. Beginning of the active period at 8:30 UTC. After a while at 9 UTC, there was a maximum of 55. This was followed shortly after by a further movement on the 30s, after which from 10 UTC the calm returned. On the 3rd, total calm. The only wriggle at 7 UTC reached 13. June 4, 17 UTC. And 17 UTC, so you subtract for Eastern Standard Time, you subtract 4 hours or 5 hours. But what's important to know is not the exact time that these frequencies have just been shot through the roof. What's important to know is that they are being shot through the roof, and it has an effect on all life. So, on June 4, at 20, it went to 23 at 21:30 UTC, 19 at 1:30 UTC. For the rest of the day, it was calm. So I went back to my captures, not even knowing that I was actually kind of capturing frequencies. Look at these frequencies, belting away, powerful frequencies that are absolutely disrupting and changing the natural processes. So, this is in the East or the West Pacific. Here's frequencies in the Atlantic. And here are frequencies that go right into the United States, Texas area. So when we look at the extremely low frequencies or Doppler radar blasting away, that's not the only frequencies that we are subjected to. All of this, I believe, is a visual of the Schumann resonance being thrown off. June 4 at, what, did I show the UTC time? Shoot. I may not have, because I wasn't, yes I did, okay. 23, it goes up to June 4, 23 UTC. And this site is saying the Schumann resonance at 21:30 UTC went to a power of 23. Is this what is these frequencies throwing off? And look at how magnificently, like crinkled, does the precipitable waters get from these frequencies right here in the Atlantic. All right, so we have, on the 5th it was calm, on the 6th, calm until 3 a.m. UTC when the variations started. Immediately they reached power 32 at 4 UTC. The movements continued with less magnitude until 7:45 UTC when some impressive movements started and reached power 100 in around 15 minutes at 8 UTC. This, despite the already impressive value, is still not the maximum for the day. At 8:30 a.m., the amplitude has further increased and reached an incredible power, 158, the most powerful peak of the last 2 days. The last 2 years, sorry. 158, off the friggin' charts. Can HAARP capsize the planet? Yes. 12:06. 10:30 UTC. At 8:30 a.m. All right. 158. You know how dangerous this is? I have on 12:06 a capture. (12:06) goes from like 18 to on the 5th and then goes into the 6th. Okay. So look at these frequencies. It's at the same time. It's at the same time as the 158 was recorded. We are talking massively powerful, dangerous frequencies being set off here. And if you go to this site, which I will link to below, you will see the frequencies, the pulsating frequencies. They are induced at the top, all along the top from they also create these shock waves. So it's not just this area that's being affected. The entire area. There's shock waves that ripple from these powerful frequencies being set off. And I'll show you in the next one, but how these frequencies are just rippling right across the planet. So 158. Now, today is the 8th. Guess when I started having incredible pain that I could not understand. I can't explain it, where it came from, why it happened. It was on the 6th. 2 days later, I'm feeling better. I feel a little like, okay, I don't want to really turn my neck too fast or do anything because there's almost like a remnants of that pain still vibrating within me. But I'm feeling much better. 2 days later. Again, 2 days. So on the 7th, 9 UTC, variations continued sporadically at lower levels. 15. From midnight UTC, a very active phase started again, which kept the power 50 for about 4 hours, from 1 to 5 UTC. During this period, the maximum value achieved 64. Not sure I read this one. At 17 UTC on the 6th, after the incredible amplitude spike of 158, other strong movements continued. The period of activity in which the amplitude has been above 100 lasted about 1 hour, from 7:45 to 8:45 UTC. At 10:30 UTC, there was a further flicker at power 28. So that was 12:06, and this is 12:07. And UTC starts at the 6th into the 7th to 6 UTC, and we still have powerful frequencies being shot in the same area, but these I cannot emphasize enough how unbelievably dangerous is man shooting off these frequencies. If you, and boy, I wish I had an editing program, but I don't. Okay. This frequency right here, that is a signature of powerful frequencies being emitted, disrupting the natural precipitable waters, the natural processes of Earth, and you'll see that there is a relatively calm flow. This frequency immediately disrupts it. It starts. This is the end, and as you can see, now it's all crinkled up, not knowing what to do, but it kind of ends with a bizarre smile. Smiley face, that's a little strange. But watch, if you can catch it in the very first second, this is a nice flow, then hit with the frequency that disrupts it all. We're in big trouble. You know, weaponizing everything leaves us with, you know, having to do an awful lot of work to maintain a equilibrium as best we can. So when you see this all crinkling up, this is what frequencies are doing to people. It's what it's doing to people's brains. It's what is happening to people. We're all becoming just this crinkled mess, left with an awful lot of pain. But here you can see how disrupted. Now, you've got this frequency, South America again. And you think about all of the protests going on in South America. All right. I apologize if I haven't made this clear enough for everybody to understand, but what you're viewing is the visual alteration of Earth's natural frequency. And when that happens, we're all out of kilter. Some experience very extreme symptoms. Others go along asymptomatic, eventually to experience symptoms. But it's important to understand that what is happening to you, it's not a result of what you are doing. It's happening due to the external influences that are taking place here. You know, so when you look at all of those frequencies, then you think about the Wi-Fi, then you think about the smart meters, then you think about that cell phone, that smartphone, iPhone that you're using, then you think about the cell tower that's nearby, then you think about all of the cell towers, the concentration of the cell towers and the antennas in your community, and the concentration of smart meters, and the concentration of Wi-Fi, and the concentration of everybody using that cell phone. Then the satellites, then the Gwen towers, and then these frequencies coming from facilities that are extremely dangerous. We are looking at critical mass of artificially induced frequencies. Life. When you live this 24/7, which we all are doing now, eventually life gets as crinkled as those precipitable waters. And there's no turning back. And that's very upsetting. So, all links are below. If you don't know much about HAARP, I suggest you read some of these articles that I'll link below too. Very important information. But the effects of the reckless use of these power levels in our natural shield, the ionosphere, could be cataclysmic. It is. We're living that cataclysmic time. And a lot of people will say, oh, the magnetic shift that's taking place is natural, or it's going to be a plasma event and it's all natural. No, it is not. I'm sorry. We can't know for sure. We cannot give any definitive conclusion to what we can do is do our best research and then recognize what is visible, like what we are seeing with these extremely dangerous frequencies being shot off. Okay, you cannot ignore this and claim it's natural. The plasma event, or the magnetic shift, or the solar, the grand solar minimum. We cannot say anything is natural now, not when man has so powerful an influence on all natural processes. We have to factor in that. But we know what these frequencies can do. We know the result. We know the symptoms of these frequencies. And that alone, that's the factor that needs to be factored in first. You don't go to natural, not when you have man doing this. Not. You go to first what man is doing. And until we have the answer to whether or not man is creating that magnetic shift, which HAARP can do, you can't claim anything is natural. Grand solar minimum. Not when man has these frequencies. Sorry. But when you go to natural, then you're ignoring the war that we are in. The war. Man weaponizing this technology and using it as a weapon of war. When you think of everything as natural, you're not going to ever be a soldier in this war, that's for sure. And maybe it's easier for people to think like that because they don't want to be that soldier. Well, you know, there's very few soldiers, so we are left to just live, you know, suffering the consequences of these maniacs. Subhuman psychopathic maniacs. All links are below.